When a mother would not hear from her 35-year-old daughter, Amber Zotto, for several days, she would call the police to do a welfare check. And when the police got there, they would find her body in a trash can. Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel, the place where we talk about all things true crime. My name's Peyton, and today we are talking about a pretty despicable human being and how he murdered his wife, and then he shoved her body in a trash can and let her stay there while he lived inside the house with their children. I don't like people like this. I happened upon this story a little differently. It's not a big story. It happened in 2019, and it's not some long-ended story because they really don't know what happened. So this is probably going to be a pretty short video, but I would like to bring some attention to the murder victim and what happened to her. It's absolutely disgusting what was done to her, and I think sometimes we just need to spend more time talking about these cases so that people realize what happens in a domestic violence situation and how bad it really can get. Before we get started, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the Wicked Cat clothing company who sent me this beautiful Ghost Whisperer shirt. I had won it in a contest, and thank you very much. Go check them out. I will put their link down below in the description box. They have some really cool t-shirts, just sweatshirts, just clothing in general, especially if you love the things that are a little bit more morbid in this world. Also, if you have not done so already, definitely hit the red subscribe button down below. Don't be shy, and turn on your post notifications so that you do not miss a thing and that you are notified anytime I post a video here. We do some funny crime videos, and we do true crime cases, and then in the future I hope to have more adventures because I like to go hiking and stuff, but for now we are mainly true crime and you don't want to miss it. So as I said, today we are talking about the murder of a 35-year-old woman named Amber Zotto. Her murder was incredibly disgusting. I don't know how else to describe it. Literally, the headline for the one article I found is, quote, "He literally threw her away and left her to rot." So this is a case that happened in Aurora, Colorado. Let's just start by talking about how she was found. So a 35-year-old Amber Zodo was married to a 46-year-old man named Keith Allen Zotto, and the two had children together and they lived together. Well, Amber's mom had not heard from her for quite a while, and it was very strange. She hadn't heard from her for several days, which was very unusual. The two had a pretty good relationship from what I had read. And so on July 2nd, 2019, her mom would contact the Aurora Police Department because she had not heard from her daughter and she was suspecting that something bad may have happened to her. The police decide that they're going to go do a welfare check. When the police went to the couple's home, they talked to the couple's two children, and both of them said that they had not heard from their mother for 2 days, which is very unusual for a mother to not be in contact with her children at all. And this is then when the police would contact her husband, Keith Zotto, and he would say that the two had gotten in an argument and she stormed off and he hadn't seen her since. She just ran off somewhere and he didn't really worry about it. He just assumed that she was leaving him or something. Now this story would change a couple times. So this one currently is that they got in an argument, she ran off, and she wasn't there the next morning. He has no idea what happened to her. Another story that he would give the police is that, well, we argued a little bit, then I think I blacked out, so I really don't know what happened to her. And then later the truth starts to come out a little bit more. Police thought Keith's story of that his wife just ran off and disappeared was a little bit strange for the reason that her pickup truck was parked outside their house, and if you were going to get up and run away, you're probably going to take your vehicle with you or you're not going to get anywhere. And this is when the police would decide that they were going to search the couple's home. They would find an absolutely horrific scene in the garage of the family home. When the police got into the garage, they would find a garbage can. The lid of it was splattered with blood, as well as the wall right next to the garbage can. And the police would look inside, and covered by debris and garbage would not only be a gun, but would also be the remains of 35-year-old Amber Zodo. She had been shot and shoved in a garbage can of the family's home right out in the garage when her children were right inside the house. So when Keith was arrested, he, like I said that the two had an argument. She fled the house. He didn't really know what happened to her, how she got in there. So that was his first story. Then his story became more of, we argued, I had drank a lot that night, I blacked out and I don't really remember what happened. I had been physical with Amber in the past, but I don't remember. And then eventually it comes out that Keith said, well, I drank a lot. We were arguing about money and the fact that Keith had thought that Amber was having an affair. And this is then when he'd get mad and he'd pull out a gun and he'd shoot his wife in the face. And he'd shove her body in a trash can and he'd leave her out there. And then he'd go back inside like nothing was wrong and he'd spend the rest of the night with his children. How you could go back inside after doing something like that to somebody's mother and then spend the rest of the night with them is extremely terrifying and terrible. So according to several sources, the family members of both Keith and Amber had said that the two had had a pretty abusive and alcohol-ridden relationship. It was very tumultuous. It was not good. A lot of the times they were known for having disputes, especially when they were alcohol fueled, and that he had been physical with her before. And this is not something that Zotto ever denied, is that he was physical with his wife. But the several versions of what had happened, some of them he gave to the police and some of them he told to witnesses. So when the welfare check was being done on July 2nd, 2019, Keith's actual sister, his own sister, would call the police department in Aurora and she would report that her brother had confided something in her. And apparently Keith confided in her that during a fight, Amber would pull out the gun that was in the house and Keith would take it from her and then he would shoot her in the face. But before he would ever shoot her in the face, she had put her hands up and pleaded for him to please not shoot her. But even with her pleading for him to let her keep her life and to continue living, I mean, she was only 35, he instead would shoot her directly in the face and then he would take her out in the garage and he would put her in the garbage can. And that's where she would stay until the police discovered her remains there. It didn't take long after this all came about in July of 2019 when Keith would be arrested in his home without any problems. He would go with the police willingly and he would be charged with the first-degree murder of his wife. And on top of that, in the state of Colorado, let's just make it very known, across the board, any first-degree murder case, the lowest sentence they can give you is life in prison without the possibility of parole. That is where Keith would remain. And he would be convicted of this murder in May of 2021. And so he will spend the rest of his life in prison and he will never have a chance to get out and spend time with his children, all because of a drunken filled rage. And I think this case is absolutely tragic. You have two kids involved that they lost their mother and now they lost their father too to the court system because he did something like this. And domestic violence so many times just gets really out of hand. And what is sad is that it was known that they had a lengthy history of disputes and alcoholism in that family. So how many times had things like this happen before that the children were involved in or had seen and experienced? I just hope that the rest of their lives are filled with much more peace. I did not find anything about where the children went. I'm assuming they went to a family member, but it's just super sad. So I just want to end the discussion of this case with a quote by District Attorney John Kellner from Aurora, which said, quote, "Absolutely, this was the right outcome in this case. This man had no regard for human life. Even when it was his wife and the mother of his children. He stayed in that house with those kids, knowing that their mother was dead in the garage. And rather than take responsibility, he tried to pretend that his wife committed suicide. And he somehow panicked, hid the bod, and then forgot what he had done," end quote. All right, so now that I've read that quote, I'm gonna be honest, I completely forgot about the suicide portion of this case. So I did read that. It was a very small thing here. So when he said that his wife had run off, he, I think, had written up a letter, because I had found something about a letter that was found pointing to his wife being suicidal and that she ran off and may have shot herself. The reason that I did not bring it up is that it was mentioned very minimally in any of the sources that I found, and it did not seem to be a huge part of this case for the most part, because they kind of immediately found out what happened and they ruled that out almost right away. So as I said, Zotto was convicted of first-degree murder, which carries a mandatory sentence in Colorado of life in prison without the possibility of parole, and he is scheduled to actually be sentenced July 19th, 2021. So his actual sentence has not happened yet, but due to the laws in Colorado, he is going to get life in prison without the possibility of parole. Before we go, I just want to make a very clear statement here. If you or anybody you know is suffering from domestic violence and domestic abuse, no matter if it's mentally or physically, please get help from somebody. You can email me. I am happy to talk to you about it or to help you find resources. I'm sure you can go to members of your family, and I know it's not easy, but these situations so often get out of hand and they end this way. And many times people try and leave their abuser and it ends this way. But this is just a straight circumstance of what can happen when you're in a alcohol-fused argument with somebody that you're known to have been physically abused by. And this poor woman was only 35 years old and she had 2 children to take care of, and she was shot in the face by her husband who was supposed to have loved her. I will leave the National Domestic Violence Hotline down below. Call it if you ever need anything. Don't hesitate. Reach out to me, reach out to your friends. There's so many people that be here for you in that kind of circumstance. And that's why it's so important to talk about these kinds of cases and talk about how bad domestic violence really is and why we need to pay more attention to it. So that is it for today. I think next week's video is not going to be a true crime video because now I've done 2 in a row, which it was supposed to be true crime video, funny crime video, true crime video, and then keep going like that. But it just didn't work out like that this week. I had a case I wanted to talk about, and that might continue happening. But I do think next week we are going to have a funny crime video, so come and laugh with me. Maybe we'll have some wine, and we'll just talk about some of the stupid things that people do that get them in trouble. Again, thank you, Wicked Cat Clothing, for sending me this shirt. I'm happy I won your giveaway because I never win anything. And if you have not done so already, please hit that red subscribe button down below and turn on your post notifications so that you do not miss my next video. If you have not done so, also don't forget to go and follow my Instagram, Killer Concepts Vlog. I post all updates about my videos and my schedule, and anytime something goes live, I will let you know on there. And if you have any case suggestions or funny crimes that you want to send me, or just any input that you want from me, go ahead and reach out on killerconceptsvlog@gmail.com. I do check the email, probably not as often as I should, but I do check it. Don't forget that the world's most dangerous minds hide in the most unlikely places. Stay safe.